The former NATO Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, Mark Simakovsky, joins us right now. Mark, thank you for taking the time. Obviously, the president apprised of this. He no doubt brings it up with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has been saying consistently, you know, what interference? There was no interference, and certainly no collusion, which would come after interference. So what are we to make of all of this and the back and forth these two will have on this subject?
You know, obviously President Trump is going to want to showcase that he can be strong in front of President Putin. This indictment obviously has evidence of Russian military intelligence officials and Russian government connections to the interference in U.S. elections. And so as a result, he can point to this evidence, and he should point to this evidence to try to prevent any future meddling. And of course, Russia will continue to not admit it. But in many ways, this indictment, of course, is very interestingly timed before this meeting. Maybe it's information that President Trump didn't necessarily want, but he has it now, and he should use it to put pressure on Putin to stop meddling in U.S. elections. You
know, a lot of people, Mark, have switched this around to say, forget about what happened in 2016. We now take it as a given the Russians were trying to meddle in the election. Not that it changed the outcome. Most people take that at face value outside some rabid folks on the left. Leaving that aside, though, is it your sense that the pressure now should be on making sure nothing happens in the upcoming midterms and indeed the next presidential election?
You know, those two are linked. You have to do both. For us to be able to prepare effectively to set up our defenses in a way that prevents what happened in 2016, you have to rigorously analyze what took place and depoliticize it and look to the facts. And Mr. Mueller is doing that. This is, again, another layer in that investigation that showcases it wasn't simply Russian individuals. It was Russian officials tied to the Russian military and tied to Russian military intelligence that took direction from the Kremlin in engaging in this activity. And, of course, both who are understanding the individuals, but who they're tied to and the actions that they took is the best way in helping us prepare to prevent that nefarious activity in the future.
But a lot of it would involve getting our hands on these guys and talking to them. Right now, these members of the GRU, I guess they're the equivalent of the Russian Federal Intelligence Agency, means finding out how they did it and who was involved, maybe with them on it. Good luck on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that obviously won't happen, but the fact that we've been able to find out their names, the departments that they've worked in, this is obviously a very thorough investigation that has to stand up in a court of law. And there's also, based on this activity, it sends a potential deterrent signal that future activity will be found out by the U.S. government and the people involved will be held accountable. And of course, those people won't be in a court of law, but it does send a signal to the Russian government that the U.S. has capabilities to find out and discover the activity that took place and will continue to do so. And of course, that activity should impact the trajectory of U.S.-Russian relations, which President Trump will be discussing with Mr. Putin on Monday.
What about the trajectory of this probe? And by that I mean, in the greater sense, the Mueller probe. There have been a great deal of dissatisfaction about its pace, its targets, and all of a sudden this comes out while the president's half a world away. Now, apparently, as we've heard, he was apprised of this before he left. But it does put added strain on those who want to either disband or hurry up that probe, because now you've got the added feature that both parties readily acknowledge that the Russians were trying to screw up our election process. Now, didn't change the election outcome. Both sides like to remind us of that, although some have their own quibbles. But what do you make of where this now stands, and particularly with the Mueller probe itself?
I mean, absolutely. As more indictments are released and as the perpetrators get closer to being showcased to being close to the Kremlin, it makes it more difficult to either end this indictment or circumvent it or stop short. So absolutely, we should allow this indictment to continue to move forward. But it does complicate the ability for the president to normalize U.S.-Russian ties, and that's his objective in Helsinki. And he's going to have a hard time doing with it because there are real obstacles to normalizing U.S.-Russian ties, particularly here in the Congress with sanctions. And of course, while he has an investigation, people, I think, accurately question some of his motivations in normalizing ties, and those should also be addressed.
All right. We'll watch it very closely, Mark. Thank you for your patience in switching to this latest news development here.